Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all happy and healthy. This video is going to be a little bit of a difficult video for me to film, but it's one that I really want to do because I feel like there's not much content about this out there, and for me talking about it really helps anyway, but also I think sometimes just knowing that you're not alone in the way that you're feeling really helps. And when I talk about things, sometimes people say that they can relate or they feel the same, and to me that's just comforting to know that I'm not the only one that feels like this. And hopefully this video will be a comfort for another mum who is also feeling the same way. So this video is going to be about my breastfeeding journey with my daughter, how it came to an end, and how I struggled with weaning blues or post-weaning depression, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, I don't feel like there is a ton of information about this out there, and I just kind of want to raise awareness about it, I suppose, and just talk about my experience and just share how I felt, how I dealt with it, and some tips to help other people get through it if they are struggling too. So a little bit of background first about me in case you are new here. My name is Jade. I'm a first-time mum to a beautiful girl called Alula who is now 17 months old. She's currently napping, so I don't know how long I've got to film this video, and that's why I'm sat downstairs in my living room because I don't want to risk waking her up. But yeah, I'm a first-time mum to my 17-month-old daughter called Alula, and she was exclusively breastfed from the start, and I am so grateful. I just want to start this video by saying how incredibly grateful I am that I was able to breastfeed. She latched straight away after birth, and we had a relatively smooth journey. We had our fair share of struggles. Breastfeeding is hard, I won't lie, it is really hard. I had mastitis 3 times and honestly feared for my life at one point, but compared to some ladies' journeys, we did have a pretty smooth journey, and I'm very grateful for it. I always wanted to breastfeed when I was pregnant. I always said I want to breastfeed, but at the same time I didn't put the pressure on myself because I know that there are struggles that come with it. Some people can't do it. My mum wasn't able to breastfeed me, so I kind of half expected not being able to do it. So, you know, I said if I can, then I can. If I can't, then I can't, and I'm not gonna like beat myself up about it. But she did latch straight after birth, and I'm very grateful. Like I said, when she was a few weeks old, we did introduce a bottle of my express milk, and that was at night, 1 bottle at night for my partner to give her, and that was purely just to try and help me get a little bit more sleep. But I did find that even when she had a bottle, she would still want me after, so it didn't really work with giving me much sleep anyway, but it did buy me a little bit more time to lie in bed while he gave her that bottle. And that was going well for a few weeks, and then I can't remember exactly when it was, but when she was a few months old, she just completely started refusing to take that bottle at night. She would have an absolute breakdown. It was really stressful for her, it was stressful for us, so we just thought, do you know what, it's not actually helping that much anyway, let's just scrap the bottle, because it was upsetting her, you know, and it was upsetting us to see how stressed she was just for us trying to give her this bottle. So we was like, let's scrap the bottle, we don't need it, it's not helping. So from then on, she has just been 100% reliant on me for her milk, and the bond it creates is just unbelievable. Like, it's just another level of love. So yeah, we had a pretty smooth journey, like I mentioned, and I said, you know, at first I said if I can get to 6 weeks I'll be grateful, and then 6 weeks came around and I said, okay, if I can get to 3 months, and then 6 months, and then a year, and I was so grateful to make it to a year on her birthday. And obviously when she got to 6 months, we started introducing food, and over time the feeds naturally reduced as she ate more and more food. When she was 13 or 14 months, I can't actually remember, it was like the end of 13 months, I think 14 months, I found out I was pregnant with baby number 2, so I'm currently pregnant. And I knew from then that I didn't want to tandem feed, so I really didn't want to feed 2 babies because breastfeeding 1 baby was absolutely exhausting, and I did struggle with at parts. So I knew that I didn't want to feed 2 of them, so I would like her to wean before this baby arrives. But you know, I just found out I was pregnant, I had loads of time, I didn't really stress about it or think about it too much, and I did want her to naturally self-wean. I didn't want to be the one that said like, right, no more, and take it away from her. Like, I didn't want to do that. I had read before that when you get pregnant, sometimes your milk can change taste and babies don't like it, or sometimes your milk can dry up completely and babies wean that way, or sometimes, you know, babies don't care if it tastes different, they don't care if there's no milk, they just continue to nurse anyway and just dry nurse. So I kind of didn't know what to expect, and I just thought I'm just gonna roll with it and just see what happens. And everything was going great. You know, I did struggle in my first trimester because I had morning sickness, which obviously isn't just in the morning, it was actually more at night for me. And because Alula didn't sleep through the night, the only time I would feed her at this point is nighttime. She didn't feed in the day really at all, but she did feed a lot in the night. She'd still wake up a few times at night, and that was really hard when you're struggling with the pregnancy fatigue and hormones and the sickness and all of that stuff. So it was really hard, and at times I really did feel like I'm ready to stop. But I kept going. It did get easier. Her sleep did kind of improve, so she was only waking up like once or twice, so that was okay, but she did need the boob every time to go back to sleep. And if we would send, like, my partner Dan, if I send my partner Dan in to try and settle her at night, she would scream bloody murder, and it was just so stressful. So the easiest way and the quickest way to get her back to sleep was for me to just go in, give her like literally a couple of minutes feed, and then she'd be straight back to sleep and we could all go back to sleep. And I'm not here to preach about whether that's right or wrong, like feeding to sleep. It worked for us, so if it works for you then great. I think it's quite a normal and natural thing to do. I know some people say like, oh, you shouldn't do it, it creates bad habits, but if it's not a problem for you, then it's not a problem, is it? And it's not really anybody else's problem. But yeah, so that was the only time that she would feed. So it did naturally tailor off anyway. Like I said, the more food she ate, the less feed she had, and then it just got to the point where she was just feeding at night. And then one night when I was 16 weeks pregnant, so I've been having a lot of pains throughout the day in my belly, and I just wasn't comfortable with it. I wasn't sure about it. So I rang the maternity unit, and they basically said like, why don't you just come in and get checked? And this was at 6 p.m. And we live half an hour away from the maternity unit, so by the time I got there it was 6:30, and then I was there for over an hour getting checked and whatever. So I left Alula with Dan, my partner, and because I wasn't there, obviously he had to put her to sleep. And like I said, I normally feed her to sleep, and I would always be the one that put her to bed, because in the week Dan is not here until she's home, so I would just always feed her to sleep, and that's just what we did. But obviously because I wasn't there, because I needed to be in the maternity unit, Dan put her to bed, and that seemed to like break the cycle we were in of feeding to sleep and her needing the boob to go back to sleep every time, because that night she only woke up once, and Dan went in to resettle her because I wasn't feeling great, so I needed to sleep, and he actually managed to get her back to sleep within like a couple of minutes, like a couple of bum taps, a little rock, and she was straight back to sleep. And like I remember waking up in the morning and we were like, oh my god, she only woke up once, and I didn't feed her. Like, I didn't feed her all night. That's crazy. I haven't fed her for like, you know, over 24 hours. And she didn't ask for it in the morning, she didn't ask for it all day. And then it got to the following night, which was a Monday. Dan was back in the gym, so he wasn't home until she's in bed like normal, so I was back to putting her to bed, and I gave her a bath, I read her a book, did her pyjamas, on the whole bedtime routine, and I just gave her a cuddle. And for the first time ever, she just fell asleep in my arms, and she didn't, you know, try to pull my top down or try to get it or ask for a milk or anything. So it was a strange feeling. She just fell asleep in my arms, and I just laid her down in her cot. She didn't stir, she didn't move, she was just fast asleep. And I remember walking out, closing the nursery door, and sorry, I'm trying not to cry because it still upsets me when I think about it. I remember walking out, closing the door, and just completely collapsing into my hands and just breaking my heart, sobbing, crying into my hands, because I knew that that was it. I knew that that was the end of our breastfeeding journey. Sorry. I don't want to cry on my YouTube channel, but this is like, you know, raw, real emotions. Yeah, I knew that that was the end, and I just had so many feelings. Like, it was the strangest feeling. It was absolutely devastating. It was heartbreaking. It was also a moment of gratitude and pride. I was so proud that my little girl had not needed me to go to sleep. Like, it's a strange feeling. For 17 months, well, just under 17 months, it was like a week before she turned 17 months, every day that was a huge part of my life. Like, obviously in the early days you're feeding for hours and hours and it's like non-stop, it feels like, and then it gradually reduces, but every day that's still part of your life. And in that moment, because I knew that was the end, it was just like I'd lost something. It was like I was grieving. It was the end of a really beautiful journey that I was just so grateful for and proud of. And for the next week, I just cried every day. Every time I thought about it, every time I thought about never having that moment with her again, all of the memories come flooding back. Never, you know, seeing her face look up to me when she's feeding again. All of the little things that I used to get frustrated about before, like, you know, the fingers in your nose and your mouth and the scratching and pinching when they're feeding, and all of those things you suddenly miss and just think, like, I'm never going to have that again. And it was just such an empty, heavy sadness that I felt, and I just wasn't prepared for it at all. And I think one thing that made it really hard as well was because it happened so quickly and so unexpectedly. Like, obviously it was bittersweet. I wanted it to end before this baby arrived, but I didn't expect it to end so quickly in the way that it did. And because I didn't know that our last feed was our last feed, that to me was really hard to accept, because I know that that last feed, because she only fed at night time, was probably me frustrated, wishing the time away because I just wanted us to go back to sleep. And I feel guilty for that, but I also feel better knowing that when you gently wean and baby chooses to self-wean, you don't often know that the last feed's the last feed, because it just happens naturally. And I think if I did know that that feed was the last feed, how would I really feel in that feed, if that makes sense? So that kind of, it was hard, but at the same time I was happy it was like that in a weird way as well. It's quite hard to explain. But yeah, I was incredibly sad, incredibly low. I remember talking on my Instagram stories about it and actually crying, or trying not to, like, I was really, really upset. And I think some people thought that I was probably being a little bit over the top, or, you know, they probably had the attitude of, well, she was never going to feed forever, it had to end sometime, like, it's not that much of a big deal. And I think if you've never breastfed before, you just can't understand, because the women on my Instagram who had breastfed, you know, they said, oh my god, I can't imagine how I'm going to feel when my baby stops. Or I've had people that said, like, honestly, it's the worst feeling when I stop feeding my baby. And a lot of these women didn't know that weaning depression was a thing, and I'd read about it before, but not much, because there isn't, like I said, that much information out there. And it is a normal thing. So I had read that when you stop breastfeeding, there's like a massive hormone crash, and it can cause mood swings and low phases, and it can just be quite intense. I don't know the complete science, but I believe it's hormones, obviously, but I think it's oxytocin and prolactin. So oxytocin is the love hormone. It's the hormone that drives contractions when you're in labor, and it's another reason why breastfeeding helps your uterus shrink back after birth, is because of oxytocin. It produces oxytocin. So I guess when you stop breastfeeding, that love hormone, that feel-good hormone, goes. So that's like quite a rubbish feeling. And then prolactin is the hormone that makes your body produce milk. So I don't really know where I stand with that, because obviously I was 16 weeks pregnant, and I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but at 16 weeks I believe your body starts producing milk in pregnancy. So prolactin, yeah, I don't know how that would have affected that, and I don't know whether pregnancy would have softened the blow. I mean, it was pretty intense, so I don't know how it did, but, or intensified it, because obviously when you're pregnant you could be quite emotional anyway. So yeah, I had read a little bit about it, but I was I just felt completely unprepared for how I actually felt. Like, I expected to feel a little bit upset when she stopped and think like, oh, but I was honestly a mess for about a week, and it's been 2 weeks now, and you can see that I'm still, you know, I can talk about it and not completely break down, but I do have a lot of emotions there, and I could cry right now if I wasn't on camera, and I'll probably cry after this. But yeah, so it's been 2 weeks now, and I think they do say that it can take like a few weeks, and everyone's different, that's the one thing. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to sort of talk about how I felt, because some people don't know it's a thing, and like I said, I felt so unprepared that it was scary. I suffered with depression when I was a teenager, and I haven't felt that low. To be honest, I don't know if I've ever felt that low as when I stopped breastfeeding, and it was such a frightening feeling. Like, I felt out of control of my emotions, and it was really worrying. And I take Alula to a baby and toddler group on a Wednesday, and this was a few days after she'd stopped feeding, and I was still quite upset about it. There's a breastfeeding consultant at this baby group, so I thought I'm going to speak to her and just, you know, get some advice, and just, like, I guess I just wanted reassurance that I was normal and what I was feeling was normal, and I wasn't getting actually ill, like mentally, if that makes sense. I took Alula to the group, and obviously there's lots of women there with their young babies and they're breastfeeding, and I didn't realise quite how upset that would make me feel as well. And I chickened out of speaking to the breastfeeding consultant, basically, because I knew that I would just completely break down, and I didn't want to cry in front of loads of people, or, you know, take her out of the room and then come in and people would be able to tell I was crying. So I chickened out, and I, you know, just went to the baby group, left the baby group feeling really, really upset, because like I said, there was loads of new mums with their babies, or slightly older babies breastfeeding, and it was just really hard. But yeah, that night after I put Alula to bed, it was always when I put Alula to bed that I felt the worst, I think, because I'd been so used to feeding her to sleep, and it was that feeling of like, my little girl's grown up and she doesn't need me, and I've done like 17 months of her needing me, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was that evening I put her to bed, and I was crying again, and I just thought, I'm actually really worried about how I'm feeling. So I messaged the breastfeeding consultant on Facebook. I just reached out and I said, I hope you don't mind messaging you, but I just wanted to ask for like your advice, I guess, and explain the situation and how I was feeling. And she was really reassuring, actually. She said that it is a loss, it is like grieving, your feelings are valid, like, give yourself time. Obviously it's hormones, like, people can say, oh, just get over it or whatever, but you cannot control hormones and the way they make you feel, like, they're chemicals in the body, you can't control that. So yeah, that was just really reassuring to know that it is normal, I wasn't ill. She said, if you are concerned, you know, like if weeks go by and you're still feeling like this and you're concerned, then maybe reach out to someone professional for help. She said you might want to speak to your midwife, because she knew obviously I was pregnant, speak to your midwife about it. But as time went on, I did feel better, and there are a few things that I did that helped. So I want to share those. So the first thing that I think can really help is to get any photos you have, if you have any photos of your journey, you breastfeeding your child, and either I made like a little reel on Instagram, and that was just quite nice to do, and I've got that saved to my phone that I can always keep. But you can get like pictures printed off and framed, or you can get a canvas made, you can get them printed off for a photo album or a scrapbook, and I think that's quite a nice idea if you do plan on having more children, because you can then add to that over time. I just think that's a quite nice idea to have all of your memories and things in one place that you can just keep forever. And hopefully you have got some photos, or at least one photo that you can maybe get framed, and I just think that's quite a nice idea. The second thing that I did was I wrote a letter to Alula about our breastfeeding journey, about it coming to an end and how I felt. And I don't know, there's just something really powerful about writing things down. I find it just gives you that kind of closure and just helps you get it out, and I just thought it was a really, really nice idea. So I've written a letter to her, it's to Alula, it's obviously speaking like I'm speaking now about it, and it was quite a long letter actually, because once I got going, that was it. But it was a really nice heartfelt letter, and I've got it in her memory box for when she has children of her own or when she's old enough to read it. I just think that was quite a nice thing to do as well. I think it helps you as the mum to get your emotions out, and like I said, writing, there's just something powerful about writing, but there's also something for your child as well, your son or your daughter, to have and to keep, which if they do go on to have children, if they're a girl and they breastfeed, that might, you know, be really nice for them to refer to when they stop breastfeeding their child. And yeah, just thinking later down the line, I just thought it was quite a nice thing to do. And then the third thing that I did was, well, I haven't done it yet, but if you have any milk in the freezer, or if you can save a little bit of milk, you don't need a lot at all, you can get a keepsake or some jewellery made. And I just think, I know some people think that the jewellery's a little bit weird. I don't really understand that. I think it's a beautiful idea, but that's one thing that I'm going to be doing. So I think I'm going to get a ring made because I like my rings, and then because obviously I'm pregnant again and I do plan to breastfeed this baby if I can. With this baby I'll get a necklace, and if I have more children I'll get earrings or whatever, so I'll have like a set. And I think that's just a really nice thing to do because you can always wear it, you can always have it close to you. I'm really sentimental with things like that, so photos and like physical things, like even though the memories are up here and I know they're there, like physical keepsakes are really, really meaningful to me. So if they are to you as well, I think those things are really, really nice to do. And if you don't really like jewellery or wearing jewellery, you can get, I don't know, a key ring or whatever. There's loads of things out there. There's loads of really lovely businesses that will do a good job. For jewellery, there's loads of businesses. You can even go on Etsy and get like do-it-yourself kits for like the breast milk jewellery, or there's probably other things as well that you could do, which could be quite a nice idea to like do it yourself. But I don't trust myself to do something like that, and I'd rather pay someone to do a good job for me. So this isn't an ad, by the way, and I've looked around on loads of different businesses, but I think the one I'm going to go with is Cumbria Life Casting. I just think they've got a beautiful range, loads of variety. I've seen some like reviews and people's pictures of stuff they've had made, and it's just absolutely stunning. There's loads of different options of how you can personalize it with, you know, bits of glitter or different colors or anything to make it like really personal to you. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I've got some milk in the freezer, so yeah, I'm gonna get myself a ring made. And that's something, like I said, that I can just always keep and treasure like forever, and that just means a lot to me. And then my last tip, honestly, is just to give yourself time, because time is a healer, and it is hard, and it's really hard for me to talk about when it's only, like I said, it's only been 2 weeks since she stopped feeding, so emotions are still quite raw for me. But I wanted to get this video filmed before I completely move on, if that makes sense, because I wanted to show my real emotions. And like I said, to me it's comforting to know that you're not alone in the way that you're feeling. So if this is helping at least one mum out there, then that makes me feel better as well. The only other tips that I have is, if you are choosing to stop breastfeeding for a medical or other reason, to do it gradually, and don't just go cold turkey. They do say that the hormone crash is like less intense if you reduce feeds down gradually rather than just going cold turkey. And that's if your baby's still quite young and you're still getting quite engorged and stuff. Just going cold turkey can cause mastitis and all sorts of things. So make sure that you do it in a way that's healthy for your boobs as well, because trust me from experience, you do not want mastitis. It's absolutely horrible. But yeah, mentally as well, reducing feeds gradually just softens the blow a little bit. But honestly, just give yourself time, do what you need to do, reach out and speak to people. Like if you haven't got anyone close to you, like friends or family that have breastfed and won't understand, then reach out to a professional, a breastfeeding consultant, the health visitor, a midwife, or someone that can just reassure you that what you're feeling is valid and normal and okay, and you will get through it. For me, it's been really nice to know that I'm pregnant, and I will hopefully have those moments with this baby in like 5 months or 6 months, however long I've got left. But yeah, I think if it's your last baby and you know it's your last baby, it can be really, really, really hard. So I dread to think what I'm gonna feel like when I know it's my last baby and it's the end of our journey there. But that's where I probably definitely will look into some professional help if I feel as bad as I did with a doula, because it is really, really hard. And I'm gonna end this video here because I feel like I'm rambling now, but hopefully this has helped some of you. I hope that, you know, if you are currently breastfeeding, this has prepared you a little bit to maybe read into stuff a little bit more and just, you know, be aware of how low you can feel after. And it affects people in different ways as well. So some people get quite angry, irritable and snappy, some people like mood swings, whereas I just felt really sad. But I'm quite an emotional person anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. I hope that this has given you some tips to get through it. If you are going through this yourself right now, please know that it does get better. If you have any tips for anyone going through this, then please leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video or you can relate in any way, then please give me a little thumbs up. And if you like pregnancy, honest motherhood with the occasional fitness content, then please do subscribe to my channel for more, and I will hopefully see you in the next one if you decide to stick around. Thanks guys, take care, bye bye. This time I need to wait it out. Hold on tight, there's a story.